We're getting ready for a pretty big project about to start in this video. We're going to head over to Wheeler Lake, so I'm just trying to pack up, get all of our gear and everything that we're going to need ready to roll. I kind of hate this time of year because it's time to start putting stuff back on the Jeep. We're supposed to get some rain, or a chance for rain, maybe even snow where we're going tomorrow. So try and put the top back on. This one's pretty nice. It's got the upper doors that go on. It's got these side pieces that go on then, and then there is a back window that'll fit in, so you can take all of that off. You can put some of it on. I'm gonna put it all back on just in case to get over there, and then we'll see maybe what I take off for today and how tomorrow looks. It's kind of tight, but this Jeep will fit through this lift gate, which is nice because then I was able to keep the lift gate. It's always handy to have a flatbed pickup with the lift gate for moving things around, but then it does fit this crawler just about perfect. Well, looks like we're gonna have to go do something now, as I'm ready to go and this dude just showed up. So we're gonna start heading over to Wheeler. Did you bring everything?
Got it all.
Everything that we need?
We got everything.
Okay, good. All right, we made it to the trailhead of Wheeler Lake today. Man, traffic was bad from BV to Fairplay. Through Alma, I'm gonna flip the camera around, show you around a little bit of what we got going. So we're gonna be camping out for 2 nights to make sure we get this done. So 2.5 day-ish project. We got the excavator right there. This is the entrance. On the other side of my Jeep, we got a road closed sign. You know, we got the information posted directly on it about what we're doing, who's closing the route. And Keith is going to drive up in front of us because it's 1 o'clock on Friday, so there are likely people up here that are probably going to be coming down. So he'll be able to notify us and them. We'll see if we can get past them. We'll let that Mini go second, and then I'll go third, so I'll be behind him. We'll see how we do getting up some of these obstacles. So if you've been on Wheeler Lake, you know this is a pretty challenging trail. There's several big rock slabs, some obstacles up here, and it starts right away when you go under the catwalk that was part of the Magnolia Mill that the road goes right underneath. So we'll see if we can get this Mini around and up through here. We're going to take it slow so we don't, hopefully, fingers crossed, damage a track or have any type of mechanical problems, so we can get it up here and actually do work. So we had to drop that bucket down just enough so we didn't hit the top of that. Creep that thing through there, and right around the corner is where we're going to work through the first obstacle there, so we'll see how it does. Well, we were just about ready to throw some rocks in there to get lined up on this first spot after the mill, but walking around, I noticed there's a lot of traffic that's been going over this way on this big rock slab, and then, you know, it's not doing anything to the rock, it's just big flowing granite. But you can see here where people have been coming around and up through here next to that tree, popping up right up there to connect to the road. So not sure how Forest Service or Mile High feels about this bypass. I mean, it's not super easy bypass, but it's definitely easier than that ledge down there. So whether they want to keep this open into the future or someday block this off, but we're going to use this for the Mini today rather than taking a whole bunch of time and effort and potentially damage equipment getting it up that ledge. We'll go around through here up and then back through here down. If this is deemed not okay for future management of the trail, then we'll come back over here and help close this side off. I mean, it's pretty worn in over here, so I don't know how long it's been this way. I've never seen it. I've never walked over here and gotten out. We just bump up that little ledge there and then just keep going. A little bit of a tight squeeze through there, but somebody's stacked some rocks even in there, so I don't know what kind of smaller vehicles or machines were messing around over here to be able to get up. But there's the main trail where Keith just went on, so now we're back on the main trail and we'll keep heading up. Thought that much of it, but it's a cool little ledge right in here. All right, continuing on up now. There's Mile High Jeep Club's Wheeler Lake sign. That's Patrol 2 that maintains this trail, and I'll show you some other stuff when we get up here. But we've helped them a few times over here before even doing this work. And I'm going to try and answer a lot of questions as we go through this, just because, man, there was a lot of info posted online, a lot of videos, a lot of people upset, rightfully so. And we got a lot of questions. There's just been a lot of information flowing about Wheeler Lake. So we're up to this next obstacle now. I'm going to get out and take a look. But as we go through this project for the next couple days, hopefully we'll answer all of your questions about what happened here, whether it's a big deal or not, how we get approval, how our volunteer coordinating and things like that work. Okay, we're at the second obstacle now. That line over there is called the flopper. We're gonna stack some in here, get this kind of, yeah, right, it'll flop you, Hunky. We'll stack some in here, see if we can get this set up so that there's kind of a straight shot, and we'll turn a little bit at the end when we take that excavator up. We'll worry about coming down on Sunday. What do you think like that? You like that, Josh? Yeah, because I think if you're turning kind of where Keith is, what do you think? Yeah, some up in there.
Part of it's going to be like if I get up here, if I can walk, how tilted back I am.
Yeah. Now, what if you spin around and grab up here? Do you think you can? You're pretty good. Yeah, just like that. Just like that. That looks good. Yeah. There we go. Not bad. Good job, Josh. Onward. Couple little dinky bumps here. We'll get up and then we'll keep going. That was pretty good. I think for us going up, that's going to be the worst one because remember the V-notch has a ramp built, which is the majority of the reason we're over here, up the middle line. So we'll be able just to drive right up that, but we're going to go continue on up. There we go. Got himself up there. While they're making their way around, we'll just have some fun down here. This obstacle is just kind of fun to go up and down, you know, while we're here. Most people put their tire in the middle, but you can hang a tire way up high on this one, straddle that crack going down. You can do that going up too. which is kind of cool. But we'll spin around and then we'll hit this left line over here that a lot of people call the flopper. We'll take this right line over here up what's known as the flopper. If you can stay out of that crevice, then you can keep your vehicle fairly level. It's not too bad. It's when you fall in one side or the other that it'll drop back tire and pull the front up really high, or if you're going down, you'll drop the front tire down and it'll make the back tire go way up in the air. So I caught back up with those guys, talked to our property owner down there, nice guy. He's got the yurt up here, so talked to us a little bit about what we were doing, thanked us for our work, and that's really what we want to do, is maintain our relationships with property owners whenever possible. Okay, so here is we call it the V-notch. One side of this obstacle is the actual V-notch, but over here is the left side. This is, got some pretty good rocky sections and rolls to it there. This is the left side that people can try. Over here on the right side, if I go over here, where Josh is at, he's going up what was the middle line to the V-notch obstacle. Now this at one time was a ledge right here. Well, and I'm going to show you some photos clear back and talk about it clear back in 2003 when there wasn't much of a ledge here. So this dirt, or a lot of this dirt, it kind of gradually came up and around in elevation. But the dirt he's on right there came out of the bank over here. So that dirt was pulled out of there and was put right here to essentially build this ramp right in front of us up to the V-notch. Now originally, the height of this, where this ramp was built, was about the height of that rock right there. So all this dirt that's in front of me right there was moved in to elevate this road up there. So that's the middle line. And then the right line here, that's what is the actual V-notch obstacle. And so you had three options when you got in here. Well, you did the middle line. That was always the easy line. So the dude, I'll tell you the full story here in a minute, but the dude that did this work built this up on the middle line, but that was always the easy line. The right line over here is the V-notch. And then the far left line over there is what I showed you from down below. You can take a look at those irregular ledges from the top up here. So I kind of think that V-notch honestly is a little bit harder than it used to be, because before this big pile was here, you kind of came over here and you entered it right here to get lined up square to it. But now there's this big mound of dirt here, so you get real off camber because they dug it out over here. So you almost have to line up like this and then kind of turn into it. When you get in there, which is I mean, you can do it. It's not that it's not doable, but it's a little more difficult to get in the V-notch that way. So here's what happened. There is a lot of mining claims up through here. We get a little bit higher up. I'm going to show you on some of the apps that I have on my phone how many chunks of private ground are all the way up through here. And when we get up here about halfway between the start of the trail and Wheeler Lake, it's up both sides of the valley, all the way across the center of the valley, and then even the road. So all those are private claims. And one of the claim owners up here was going to do some improvements to his property, his claim. And the Forest Service actually knew that he was going to do that. He notified him and said, hey, I'm going to be up there doing some improvements to my claim. But what they didn't know, and what he did not disclose, was that in order to get equipment up here, he was going to do this, which was build this ramp on the V-notch. So he did this. He got his equipment up there. He built a new road up the side of the mountain. That's where we're going to. That's the high point of our project, is where he built that road, and I'll tell you why when we get up there. And he opened 2 old adits, 2 of the old mine tunnels that were either on his property or right at the edge of his property, and that's what he was doing. So he had to get equipment up here. So the biggest part of the road work that he did was alter V-notch here. But that's it. So, you know, I've heard a lot of stuff on the internet, and like we always say, most of it's not true. So this is the V-notch. I've heard that he filled it in with concrete, that he filled it in with dirt. He didn't. There's no concrete or dirt in the V-notch at all. Looks just like it always has, except it's actually deeper at the start there because he removed dirt. I've heard that he paved the whole trail, that he filled everything in the whole trail. He did not. This is the first part of the trail that we've encountered work so far. So he probably took that bypass that we did at the first obstacle, probably stacked some rocks there at the second obstacle like we did, and then built a ramp here at V-notch, and then continued up to his property. And, you know, he didn't do anything beyond his property. So I've heard that, you know, he took all the rocks out of Bowling Ball Hill. That's not true. He didn't do anything above his property. So the second half of the trail, he didn't even go up because he didn't need to. There's a winch anchor. We put that in 3 years ago up here so that it's in a straight line pull to the ramp now that you don't really need. But you could get this side too. We actually have another one that we're going to put in over there at the head of the V-notch, because we were standing here during Super Celebration, Bronco Super Celebration in Buena Vista, very 1st of September. That's when I did a site visit over here with the volunteer coordinator, 2 people from the rec office out of South Park, Forest Service office, to check all of this out. And we saw Bronco slip down in there, and he had a time, so they actually drove a vehicle up there so that they could winch him up to get a straight line pull. So we're going to pop another anchor in so that nobody has to do that in the future. But yeah, so now you know the story of the property owner. Now, he did not have permission to alter the road in any way, because even though it's access to his property, it's not his road. It's actually not even a road anymore. It's classified as a full-size motorized trail, but it is a public route. So in order to alter public routes, you would need special authorization. You need permission, like we have on this project coming up here today. We have permission to put this road back, and we're going to do some drainage work down there when we get back down to here. So that's the story of it. It's not nearly as bad as what people said that it was. It's not okay. I mean, he shouldn't have done it, but it's not the end of the world. And we'll get this cleaned up. But we're going to continue up to the upper part up here where he was. We'll work some drainage stuff. We'll talk to you why. We'll go from there. Somebody parked the excavator in the way. Okay, we're continuing to head up the road now above the V-notch. Played around down there a little bit. It's a fun obstacle. It really is. And It's kind of a bummer that it was altered. You know, I know some people have very, very strong feelings about that, but let me go back to something that I said earlier when we mentioned that other property owner that came through here when we were making our way up that I talked to. Super nice guy. And what we always try to do, at least as a trail group, a trail advocacy group and a trail adopter group, and even just myself personally, is to have as good a relationship as possible with property owners along the trails that we enjoy or that we take care of. And the reason is because we've had a number of instances where there's been a property owner that doesn't want us to cross their property. And whether or not there's, a right, prescriptive right to use, we'll talk about that in a minute, or an easement. If a property owner throws up a gate where the trail intersects their property, it is extremely hard and extremely expensive to get rid of that. And people say, well, they're not allowed to do that, or they can't do that, or somebody will just make them take it down. But that's all idealistic ways of thinking, because who's going to make them take it down? Who's going to go do it? Who's going to go through the legal process to make them, to win a judgment and make them remove that gate? That takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of effort, and it takes a lot of money. So whether or not they should or shouldn't do it, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if they just do it, and then it's up to us or the Forest Service or jointly all of us to try and figure out how to remove it. So a much better strategy is to just work with property owners and figure out, what are your issues? What are you having trouble with? What can we help you with? So that we, maintain a good relationship and we don't see a gate one day that then we have to deal with. We've had that on areas. Earlier this year, there was a guy who was closing the gates at the Champion Mill property in Half Moon in the Leadville district. So the 110 road goes across the corner of the Champion Mill property there. That's private property. It's owned by Outward Bound. But the Forest Service has claimed a prescriptive right of use for public access on the road across that private property. It just nicks the very edge of that private property. So if you stay on the road and you drive through there, we're good. You're not trespassing because they've claimed a prescriptive right to use. But that doesn't mean you can just hike around or drive up to the mill or anything, because we don't own that. We don't have permission from Outward Bound to be on there. There was a guy, and I don't know if he'd had permission or not. The more I find out, the more I'm leaning towards he was squatting up there, but this summer. But anyway, he was closing the gate there and restricting public access. So is he supposed to do that? No, but he did. And then, we had to contact a Forest Service law enforcement numerous times to go up there, and they finally made contact with the individual and informed him of how that route works. So then we didn't have problems, at least with him closing the gates. But then he was approaching vehicles and saying there's an active mine site up there, and he was doing gold recovery on the Champion mine site too, and the public shouldn't have been up there. So we just want to try and do everything we can to avoid those situations. Now some people are just don't like the public. They want to find a claim, buy property, find some seclusion in the mountains and not have anybody bother them. So we don't always have a good relationship. But if we can do anything about helping property owners or maintaining a quality relationship with property owners, we do it. We go out of our way to do it. That's why this guy, we didn't want to make, a huge deal about it online or, social media, or put out a call to action or anything like that, because we were letting the Forest Service work through their process of notifying somebody who did something that they were not supposed to or given authorization to do, which was to alter this road. Let the Forest Service handle that notification and working with that property owner to, inform them that was not okay. That was a violation. They're probably going to get tickets. They probably already have and fined, and Now we're in here doing the work to fix it, so they may even go back and seek restitution for what it would cost to have this work done. So I contacted the South Park District immediately when I saw this happen. We were notified the day it happened by other members of the public that were up here at the time. And, you know, they said the same thing. Well, let us look into it. We'll see what's happening. I offered our services, and they said they may take us up on it once they work through their process. So then, you know, we got to the point they said, let's do a site visit. Let's go out and look at this. Tell me what you would do. So we came out here and we looked at it with them. 1st of September, I wrote a proposal to the Forest Service for this project of what we would do. And then I attached a cost estimate. We don't get paid. We don't charge to do this. But if we were a private contractor, what would it cost to have us come out here and do this? Because then they can use that information and those numbers to go back to seek restitution against somebody. Doesn't mean they'll see that money, but at least they have some figures to begin that process. They really won't prosecute anybody criminally right now, the Forest Service. The current administration federally is not into that legal avenue, is to go after the public criminally. And I'm not saying I agree or disagree with that. I'm just stating where they are. So they will not seek criminal charges, but they could seek civil damages and restitution to essentially back pay what it would have cost to fix this road. You know, we've had other instances. There were some years where the owner was gating Lost Canyon or dragging a chain across the Lost Canyon Road, also in the Leadville district above Buena Vista, between BV and Leadville. So, you know, we try and stay out of those situations as much as possible. We'd rather work with people and then offer our services like this. I know it's 2 months late after it, you know, happened, but we're over here. We got the Forest Service really expedited the process. I submitted that proposal a couple days after our site visit on September 1st, so they probably had that proposal on September 3rd, and now here we are on October 3rd already over here doing work. So we got to it pretty quick. They made it happen pretty quick because South Park District wants this route to stay open. This is now a full-size motorized trail, so you actually need an OHV sticker even for a plated vehicle to drive this route, because it's a full-size motorized trail designation. It is no longer classified as a road. I'll talk a little bit more about roads and trails and maintenance levels of roads and the classifications when we get up here to the high point of the project where we're going to do some work. But there is a difference, and I do get asked questions a lot. He's going to go up this rock ledge here. I'll do some explaining while you watch him. You know, we get questions about, well, why are you doing this project? Why are you doing something different than a different project? And I always go back to, don't just look at what we do necessarily and compare it from one project to the other. Our mission statement is to keep trails open, number one. That is the mission, to keep trails open for the public and for us to use. And we use trails as slang. That means roads, that means classified trails, to keep the accesses that we love as off-road users open in the backcountry. That's the most important piece, the mission statement. The second part of it is to maintain it or keep them in a condition that is desired. That's what we're doing up here. Is that the condition was altered. It was made easier on Wheeler Lake. It's obviously not desired by the Forest Service or by the public. So we want to, you know, reverse that and put that back to the desired, you know, difficulty of the trail. Because I'll get questions. Some people will say, well, you actually did road improvements on Tin Cup earlier this year where we fixed the big mud pit that was a problem on the Salida side that was almost impassable for a lot of vehicles. So in that case, we did trail improvements. And now we're on this trail unimproving. Well, we haven't yet, but we're going to unimprove it so that it becomes more difficult. Whereas on Tin Cup, we made it easier. And then For the most part, people have been supportive of the work we did on Holy Cross last year, but I've had some questions and some, even people saying that we made Holy Cross easier when we did the water work up there at the French Creek crossing and the obstacle there. So I'll give you the specifics of each of those three as to what we're doing and why, but it goes back to the mission. The mission is to keep trails open. That's the most important piece. And then the second part of that is that while we're keeping them open, we want to maintain the desired experience and level of difficulty. Okay, we made it to the high point. So this is where the owner's property, there's a little bit of a makeshift road here, but if I step up over here, you'll see the bigger road that comes off the main road there and just kind of goes straight up the mountain here. I got a lot of comments of like, well, this road's not going to last. He didn't do a good job. It's going to wash out. I mean, it's his road on his property, and his property crosses the main road right here. So, he can build whatever type of road he wants on his property. We can't tell him otherwise. And the thing about mining claims, it's usually real narrow, long strips. So he doesn't have a lot of real estate here to build a road up the hill anyway. He just kind of has to go straight up the hill. But what we're worried about is if, there is a lot of heavy rains or snow melt and it's going to travel right down the road. The water's going to travel right down the road. It could travel down right here. So we're going to build a water bar right there where Josh is, so it doesn't then hit the main trail and go back down there towards where my Jeep is and impact the main trail. So we're going to build a water bar right here. There's a little bit of water anyway seeping down from just above this space right behind Keith here anyway. So, and this is October. This is real low water season, but you can already see there's a little bit here anyway. And then it was running down the road. So when we get this water bar built here, not only will it take care of up there past Keith, but then it's going to take care of this water here and any other issues that may show up water-wise, and it'll divert it right out there to the exit off the road so we don't have problems. What's up?
You're digging on private property.
We're digging in the road prism.
That's not the road.
Yeah, it is. That's the road. You can film me. My name's Marcus. I have permission from the Forest Service to work on the road today.
This is private property.
Yeah, I understand that, but we're just working on the road itself for the U.S. Forest Service. So one minor note there, that was a property owner that you heard in that exchange. She had come down and was watching us work. And you may have heard him say that we were digging on his property when we were off the side of the road starting that water bar. And I said that we were digging in the road prism. What is the road prism is like you have the tread of the road, however wide that is, the actual dirt parts of the road. But the prism of the road extends much wider than just that. It could be the bank that was cut if you have a road that crosses like a really steep slope, the bank that was cut up here, and then if there was any infill on the bottom or any type of drainage features. So ditches along the side of the road or water bars that go across the road are technically part of the road prism, which is what we were allowed to work on. Maybe just push that down a little bit so it's not too off camber as you come across, like just down there. And as you can see how it kind of diagonally cuts there so that the fall behind it channels water off to the side. So then we got this one we're working on. So this is actually the new road that goes up. And that Jeep right there is the property owner. He wasn't too thrilled with what we're doing, but told him we have permission with the Forest Service. So that one, if that water comes down right here, we're gonna build one right here, and then that way it'll shoot it off there on the right side of Josh's excavator once we get done. We're going to try and scrounge up some dirt to be able to build that. And then this one We're trying to pack this in real good with Keith's Jeep, just rolling over and back. Now that's looking pretty good, so we can get that one all packed in. Then we'll move down a little bit farther. Plant life. Are you transplanting flowers? We got this second one done here below the lower of the two roads. So we got pretty good berm rolled in. Looks good on the backside. Rocks on the bottom to prevent it from eating in the road. Then you can see if it comes down from that road, which that road's probably gonna look like a river. Spring runoff when it really gets hot and all the snow on the ground and up towards that ridge starts melting. It's gonna come right down. It's gonna go here, and then instead of going down the road, it's gonna run through that. It's hard to see the angles a little bit in the sun, but it's gonna hit that and then shoot off the road right there and not continue on down. So pretty good first day, I would say. I mean, we didn't leave Buena Vista till about noon, so getting over here to Trailhead, getting unloaded, setting the sign up, getting a little bit set up, and then walking that machine all the way up here. We're about halfway from the trailhead to the lake is where we started this, and then we're gradually starting to work back down. So we're probably going to park that machine up here for the night, head down, try and set up our camp, and then we'll be back up here pretty early tomorrow because the weather in the afternoon is not supposed to be great. All right, this is day 2. We camped down at the trailhead last night. We're back up here in the morning. It's pretty much overcast so far, a little bit breezy, a little chilly, and there might be some rain moving into the area later this afternoon, so we'll see what kind of weather we'll have to deal with. Got that excavator warming up. We'll do some checks, get things ready to go, and then we'll start moving back down the road towards the V-notch area. We do a couple drainage pieces here and there just to make sure there's not large puddles of standing water. And okay, we're heading down now. We're going to start creeping down. We'll do a couple drains on the way down. It's just kind of a bouncy ride back down a little ways here to V-notch, so we'll get to there here in a few. But I'm going to try and answer some questions that I saw, or questions that were like directly messaged to us, and then finish that road maintenance level topic that I brought up earlier. So, when we did the Tin Cup road, and we did that work on Tin Cup with the logs and stuff to fix the mud pit, that's because Tin Cup is a maintenance level 2 road. And to give you an idea what that looks like, let's back up. There's 5 maintenance levels for Forest Service roads, which is a road classification. Maintenance level 5 is like a 2-lane paved highway, essentially. Maintenance level 4 road could be paved, or it could be like a really nice, wide, graded dirt road, like a county road, like a really well taken care of county road. That would be like a maintenance level 4 road. Maintenance level 3 could be a single-lane dirt road, could be a 2-track road, with like a natural surface, kind of I wouldn't call it exactly a primitive road, but it doesn't have large rock outcroppings. It doesn't have shelves or irregularities that you go over. Be maintenance level 3. Then maintenance level 2 is a 4-wheel drive high clearance road. That's the classification. So that's what it's maintained, or the standard is maintained to. 4-wheel drive being like a stock 4-wheel drive pickup with a low range transfer case. That's what you could think of like a maintenance level 2 road. Then maintenance level 1 is an administrative use road, so they're not open to public use. And they're still on the ground. Maybe the Forest Service or administration uses them occasionally. They could be open for firefighting, fire suppression, special use operations, stuff like that, but it's not a public use. So Because of that, Tin Cup is a maintenance level 2 road. So it should be consistent with four-wheel drive, high clearance vehicles. And that's why we did the, mud bog work, because that, was swallowing even substantially built vehicles into that, much more difficult than a maintenance level 2 road. And sometimes it's, a sliding scale for maintenance levels, because it, if the interval of when they do maintenance is 10 or maybe even 15 years, year one after they do maintenance on a road, the road is in much better condition than in year 15, or if they're behind schedule, year 16, 17, and that road has gotten a lot of use from the public and erosion and stuff, it may be much more difficult than it was during the year that it was maintained and somebody went in and did some drainage work and fixed it up. So that's why sometimes, if you haven't lived in Colorado for a long time and you've been running trails for the last 5 or 6 years or even a decade, you show up and a trail has had maintenance work done on it to continue the maintenance level standard, you think that something's wrong and somebody did something inappropriate to the road, when in reality it was just on the maintenance schedule. So it's a dynamic kind of, ever evolving situation. And then there is what is a full-size motorized trail classification. That is what Wheeler Lake is now. In the last travel plan decision in 2022 that involved the entire Pike and San Isabel National Forest, there were a number of road classifications, mostly maintenance level 2 roads, that were converted to full-size motorized trails, because that's recreation specific, and they're usually much more difficult because people are going out there looking to challenge their vehicle or drive a difficult route. So they are converted to a full-size motorized trail, so they're not then expected to be maintained to a maintenance level 2 standard. That's like Wheeler Lake, and that's why we're here, and we're going to try and return the V-notch obstacle back to what it was earlier this summer, so that it is consistent with the rest of the difficulty level of the trail. And I know the property owner was getting equipment up that, but the way that that ramp is built up the middle line of the V-notch, it is not in any way representative of the difficulty above the trail or below the trail, below the V-notch on this trail. I mean, the 2 obstacles that you have to traverse before you get to the V-notch are substantially more difficult on the easiest lines than what the middle line of the V-notch is. So that's what we're hoping to do, is to return it back, that if you take the middle line, the easy line on V-notch, it's representative of the difficulty level of the entire trail. That would be ideal. Holy Cross, so when we did the water work last year on Holy Cross is still classified as a road. White River hasn't done travel management in a number of years, so it's still consistent with a road classification, but in reality it's the like desired maintenance level. Sorry about that, the radio's going bonkers. The desired maintenance level of Holy Cross, or basically how they're maintaining it, is that of a full-size motorized trail too, similar to Wheeler Lake. And we were asked by White River to go up there and do the work to keep the creek in the original creek channel and not allow it to run down the road, because it's not that we can't touch water, but we want to limit the amount of time that vehicles are in contact with the water. And that's been an issue on Holy Cross for a lot of years, because if you've been up there, you've seen that sign that was before. At one time, it was actually before where the water exited the road, and now, before we did the work, the water was running even down past that sign through the road. So vehicles were in contact for a long time with the water. They were, people would park them there and walk up when there would be, a stack up for the obstacle, and then you have vehicles leaking oil and other fluids directly into the water that's just not needed. So White River asked us, we worked with their fisheries biologist and the OHV crew and the recreation department up there to get that water put back in the creek channel. We did not alter the difficulty of that at all. So anybody that's talking about that has not been up there, because if anything, the approach to the French Creek obstacle is more difficult now, because we put a lot of rocks in the road to keep that water channeled into, the original creek bed, that it's more difficult to climb to the French Creek obstacle now than it was before. So if anything, that's slightly harder. but we did not touch the creek in front of French Creek or in front of the French Creek obstacle or the rocks on the other side of the creek there that you have to climb over. Every single one of those is still intact. The lines are all intact that you would use, 4 different options to get across there. All we did was below that make sure that the creek was flowing back across the road into the original creek channel. Now I'm down here a little bit farther. That mini's coming down, and we've got, so like pooling water like this, like there's a low spot over here where it can go down through the willows there. So we're just going to cut a small drain here just to make sure that we don't have, excessive standing water. And while I'm waiting for him to get down here, I'll answer another question. So we have a closure order on this road, and not us, Corps instituted it. A closure order can be issued by the Forest Service on any of their routes, and they could even be non-motorized. Could be a hiking trail, could be roads, any of the maintenance levels, could be full-size motorized trails, could be 50-inch motorized trails, or even motorized single track. The Forest Service themselves can issue a closure order for several different reasons on a route. So when we were doing work here as part of the proposal, we requested them do a closure order on Wheeler Lake for the days that we were up here, because it's just much easier to move equipment up and down without the public trying to get through up and down the trail too. People in the work site, questions, just it's a lot easier for us to do what we need to do. So the South Park District requested a closure order, and that closure order was signed by the supervisor of the Pike and San Isabel National Forest for October 3rd through this weekend that we're here. And then when we're done, we'll let them know that we're done and out of here, and then that closure order be rescinded. So we posted a road closed sign at the first of the trail here when we came up to get ready for this, but that closure order was officially issued by the United States Forest Service for this work being done on Wheeler Lake. Because some of the questions, people are like, well, how can you just close a trail when you want to? And again, I'll take it back. It wasn't us that closed it. We requested it be closed for the project that we were approved to do on Wheeler, and then the Forest Service closes the road through an official forest closure order. We got that on Holy Cross too last year when we were doing the work on Holy Cross. We had the closure order for that weekend issued by White River National Forest when we were up there. So that's how the closure orders work on trails or roads when we do work on them, like we're doing on this one. And there it goes, one bucket full, and it's already, flowing out of there pretty good. We're continuing to make our way back down here, and you can watch him go over that one as I talk a little more about some of the questions we received. So one guy asked, is the Forest Service going to be on site with us? And today, no. Nobody, well, this weekend, I would say, no. Nobody from the South Park District office was planning to be out here with us. There's government shutdown going on during the middle of this project, so there's probably not anybody available in the office anyway, but it didn't matter. They said they were not going to have personnel out here with us on this project. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. It really just depends. If you go through a site visit and they feel comfortable with what your proposal is and the scope of work, and you talk through stuff, then a lot of times they're good with it. Sometimes if you've worked with them in the past, then they're comfortable with what you're going to do. I've talked about it a lot if you've watched our videos, that we work with Forest Service road engineering quite frequently. So in some cases, if we're trying something new, like on Tin Cup, where we'd never done corduroy before, and neither had they obviously wanted to come out and check things out and see the full project, which was awesome. So sometimes they are out with us, but not always. It's about, if you're able to build a relationship with, people in a district and a forest, and then even a region. We're in Region 2, and we have a volunteer agreement now with Region 2 that covers, the entire region. So we don't have to have individual ones in districts or in forests now. We have a region-wide volunteer agreement to do stuff with them. So if you have a good relationship, a lot of times they'll let you, they'll approve a project. We did the site visit 1st of September. They were good with everything we were going to do. So they, allow us to do this without actually having Forest Service personnel on site. All right, so we're at the part of the video that everybody wanted to see. Maybe even fast forward all the other stuff to get to this point so you could see what we were going to do. Now we're trying to pull that ramp out that was built up there on the middle line. We're using some of that dirt to fill in back on this side of it, and then we're going to put some big rocks. So we're going to channel that water behind it down the side there to the left of the excavator. We're going to build a channel so we have good drainage. We're going to remove this dirt here and kind of, get the elevation back to where it was. And then we're going to line this channel with really big rocks. So if you come in here, the better approach will be back to how it used to be, to V-notch, like right here, the approach straight on, which you couldn't really do then with this ramp built here because it was pushing you off camber and down this way. So we'll see if we can get that put back together, get these rocks lining this so we can facilitate drainage so it's not a mess. Clean all this up so it doesn't look terrible like that, and then restore the middle line back to the height that it was earlier this year. What about that big one? Yeah, we could use that to cap that off. Would be ideal, right? So we're going to try and use that big piece for the top here, right where we put this dirt, so it can kind of cap that off on the edge. It's a pretty big rock for this size excavator, though. We'll see if we can get it maneuvered up there. There we go. Now we're pretty close. So as we're doing this, I'm sitting on this side. I found some pictures. You pass iron goats. We do a lot with that club. Good people in Ute Pass from there out of Woodland Park. And they were here July 17th on a club run this summer. And they had some great pictures, and I'm sitting at about where the photographer was. So looking across there, we're gonna try and get the bottom of this back to that similar height to where these vehicles were going off of the middle line here. So you can see where I'm looking at, and then you can see what those photos look like. So we're gonna try and use that as a guide to figure out what the height needs to be looking straight across here. Starting to spit on us just a little bit, but we're getting there. Man, there was that big old rock was in there buried. So that was buried first with a bunch of dirt on top of it. So we're just trying to get the right height. We may keep it a little higher than what it originally was because it's going to settle in here too. But we've kind of got the line built back up. We've got these rocks on that side. We're trying to facilitate drainage around there. So you will stay on the excavator side of those rocks and ditch. We should be able to get the height right and the lines right so you can line up to V-notch or the middle line through here once we pull some of this dirt back. And I'll go back to where I was over here on the side, and you can see we're about there where those pictures are, when Ute Pass was here earlier in the season. So that's probably going to be our line. We may push a little more dirt in there because, like I said, it's going to settle down because we've got it all disturbed. We'll see if we can get it set. So we got a couple things going on. You can probably hear that. We are going to put in another winch anchor right over there. So I am standing right now in the middle of the V-notch. So it's going to be a direct pull if you had problems in the V-notch to right there. I'll go up and turn around and show you so I'm not too close to those guys. But now I'm in line with them, and that pull will be directly down to where that excavator is, right down the middle of the V-notch. When we did the site visit, I mentioned before, it was Bronco's Super Celebration out of Buena Vista, and there was a full-size Bronco that got wedged down in here really hard and needed to winch out. And we had somebody drive up on top up there to give them a pull, which worked out, but this way we don't have to take vehicles up there. Still, it hasn't been beaten down. There's some grass and vegetation on top. So this way, if you have problems in V-notch, you'll be able to use that anchor, and then problems on the rest of it, I already showed you straight over there before, is the other winch anchor. So now we'll have two. We're pretty close. It's coming out pretty good. I mean, it's impossible to get it exactly like it was before somebody disturbed it, but we're working on it. Okay, we're doing pretty good. It's lunchtime. We've got a lot of that pulled out. It's starting to snow too. You remember those ledges? So we cleaned all the dirt out of those too. We realigned how you would drive into the V-notch, right where Josh is. So you'd come straight from me into the V-notch. And then what we've done is, this has kind of always been a problem over here, is the drainage. So we cut a drainage ditch down all along the outside down there to pick up all the seepage from in here, and then it actually seeps down the notch too. So it comes around this point. We've got drainage built all the way under there, so it'll seep through there and then continue and pick up with this. And we'll keep working all the way down the side there, and then we're going to bring it across the road and on down. So that'll be, a lot better looking when we fill in the rest of these rocks in there instead of just this scarred up hillside. It'll filter down through that and continue down the side. And we've got this pulled out pretty nicely here. And I'll go back over here and shoot it again. And the reason is because, like I said, this is all disturbed dirt that we've messed around with and pushed it back in there. So it's going to settle. And people are going to be spinning tires, and they're going to start digging that back out. So we're going to leave it at this level for now. And it's not going to take much use. And it'll probably be right back down to where it was. So we are down here at the end of the day. It was snowing pretty hard on us for a while, so I haven't had the video camera out, but we got this drainage ditch built on the side there, and then we took it across the road here, so you've got a dip. So when you come in from down there, if you're going to go left side, you go through that dip, and over there, if you're going to step back, if you're going to go up the middle or up the V-notch, then you go through that dip right here, and then we've got that approach all built. Some of you probably recognize these ledges and lines. We cleaned it all out real good. So you got even this left side here where you can straddle that big hole, or we've got the middle line dialed back in where we dug all that dirt out. So we'll just creep it right back down this middle line. Rocks are a little bit slick after all that moisture today. So that's back what it looks like. And it's right at the same level height as this knob right here. And then I'll go back up to the top here. I'm kind of on the side of V-notch, but I'll show you. So we have that winch anchor. We painted it right there. It's pointed right down now, down to the center of the V-notch. So we just put one extra one in today. since we were here and we had the equipment to do so. Maybe I can get, if there's a good shot of it now that where nothing's in the way, on the back side of it, so you can see that that anchor is pointed right there towards the very center of V-notch. So if you have problems in there, you could pull right over here to this anchor. We don't leave them up too high, and I didn't want to put it too much closer in these rocks at all, because sometimes people will hug this as they're coming in. So you might have to use like an abrasion strap or something right there to get to that winch anchor. But it is pointed right down through the center of the V-notch in case somebody slips down in there and you need an anchor point. So that's pretty much the end of day 2. It's getting kind of cold in here because it was snowing earlier today, on and off, and then it really socked in and snowed pretty hard on us right here at the end. We did drive up to the lake just to have a look up there. It was kind of socked in when we were up there, so we're gonna pack our stuff up, head back down to camp. We'll be back up here in the morning, and we'll get that mini fired up and start making its way out of here. We've got 3 or 4 more places to drain on the way out. We're here at the start of day 3. Got that mini excavator warming up over there facing the sun. Water's running down through that ditch that we dug. We flattened it out really good with the vehicles yesterday, and then I did a little bit more this morning, so it's just kind of a dip now more than a ditch. But that's going to help us manage that drainage that was an issue on that right hand side for a lot of years, and it kind of helped us manage the bank up here because it's kind of ugly, when you just go in and dig out the wet area to use that dirt to build a ramp. So we stacked a lot of cobble, a lot of rocks in there. So if you come up here and you need help to get up the obstacle, don't use our drainage rocks for rock stacking over here on the obstacle. There's plenty of other rocks around that you could use for rock stacking. But it turned out, like I said, really well. Packed it down quite a bit. The ledges look kind of flat on camera, but they're not. You saw the pictures from yesterday that I compared, and there's a lot easier way now to drive through, get that straight on line. I drove up it once this morning. You can see the wet tire tracks on that left side there for V-notch. So it works out that you can line that back up. Before, when that big ramp was here, you had to come too far to the right. Now we got those rocks there, so you can hit more of the historic line on V-notch, and then that shows it a little bit better, the ledges coming back down. And it's not going to be long. There'll be dirt kicked out of here and rocks stacked in here and whatever. So we got it back to reasonable condition, and then we'll see after a full season of use next year, it's going to look different. And that's the thing with trails. They always change and look different. Sometimes, it's an environmental issue or major water, flood, landslide, rock slide, avalanche, something like that. But they also change from use. So check out these pictures. I pulled some stuff up when I was looking around because I remember, not only coming to Wheeler Lake in the 90s all the way until now, but looking at old pictures and seeing what it used to look like. And if you've been in Colorado for a while, you might remember a site called Trail Damage. It's still around. You got to pay for a subscription now if you want to use it. But Trail Damage had a lot of, documentation of trails and how they've changed if you went back and looked through their pictures. And then the old Colorado4x4.org bulletin board, not as rough of a crowd or as highly technical information as like Pirate, but it was kind of Colorado version of that. So there was a lot of trail information on there too. But 4x4 Explorer has some old pictures of what Wheeler looked like. And there's even one on there from 2003. So check this out. From 2003, if you look at where I was just facing with my Jeep up at the top, where that other Jeep is parked coming down. So we kind of recreated that photo. And you can see from here compared to it, I mean, the V-notch, that front line to the middle obstacle. I mean, the V-notch, you can barely even tell that it's a V. You know, the dirt's all filled in the middle of it. So that's, you know, how trails can change, how they look different. I mean, if we go back even farther, so that was 2003. How many of you know the obstacle that used to exist at the top of Bowling Ball Hill? You get up to the top of Bowling Ball Hill, you make that right-hand turn, and there's a really jagged slab of rock on the left where the water runs down. That used to extend all the way across into the trail, and you used to have to climb the left side and then turn right into that. Charles Wells's books, so the Fun Treks books, I think his first edition was published in 1998. We had that. I mean, my dad had that version. I was in high school. My dad had that version of that book, and I remember there was a picture of that obstacle in there. I didn't have it before I came out on the trip this weekend, but I'm gonna look for it and see. I'll chop it into this video if I find it. So check this out. I did find the first edition of Charles Wells's book that he wrote for Colorado. The difficult trails, that's Iron Chest right there on the front. And if you open this, talks about, you know, the copyright date up here is 1998. So that was the copyright for this book, which means he was collecting a lot of this information even before 1998. If we go down here and look at this area, so area 4 is Vail, Leadville, and Fairplay. And if we go to area 4 here, you can see Wheeler Lake was on page 166. And if I find 166 in this book, here is the Wheeler Lake write-up. You can see the map down here, and there's one major obstacle that he has listed, and that's the one at the top of Bowling Ball right there by that hill icon. A couple water crossings and stuff, but none of the other obstacles are really mentioned. And the reason is because it says there are several obstacles along the way that can be managed by stock vehicles. However, the last obstacle before the lake requires lockers, a winch, and a friend with a tow strap. Brushes very tight along the trail in places. And if you can see this obstacle, that is this one that is shown in the top part of this book right there where that Cherokee is. And he says in the back of his book when he was talking about his Jeeps that Cherokee had 35s on it. And you can see how difficult and off camber that obstacle. And just as the last obstacle before the lake is the toughest, and you will need help without lockers. So that, you know, that obstacle was altered at some point in the late 90s. The first time I was up there, we drove my dad's Cherokee 91 XJ, totally stock, 235 tires up to the base of Bowling Ball Hill. We parked there. It's posted and cabled now. There used to be a side road that went off a 2-track, not very far, but right there, and you could park. And then we walked up Bowling Ball Hill, past this obstacle, and then up to the lake. And then the second time that I was up in Wheeler Lake was in the early 2000s, and I had my yellow Jeep that I have now still, and that obstacle was not there. Some pictures in there of Wheeler Lake and that obstacle specifically. And at some point that was altered. And I honestly myself, I don't know how or why or who did it, but that was easily the hardest obstacle on this trail at the time, and then that was removed. And so now you just kind of turn through there, and it's got kind of chewed up now over the years with use, but it's nowhere near what it used to be. So trails change, conditions change. You know, we put this back as close as we could, you know, what it looked like earlier this summer, but again, it's never going to be exact because of how much disturbance there was right here. So we tried to get the elevation of dirt around here. It's still kind of mushy. I mean, even when I was driving on it today, it is settling and packing. And then as soon as some of this gets spun out, like there was this ledge of rocks right here kind of extended across there, and it's got some dirt on top of it. Right now, So there was some more rock exposed here, and I'm sure as soon as people start using this trail and climbing up through there, that will, uncover itself very, very quickly. And then this will get bigger in front of this ledge and even right here. Because right now you can, my Jeep's farther to the right as I'm looking at it, but you could take a left-hand tire right on that ledge, take a right-hand passenger tire right in that notch, straddle that big hole, and drive up. And I did that yesterday multiple times when we were packing this down. Use the middle line, you can bump it just a little bit, just roll into it and give it some gas as you're going up, and you can bump right up. Or now you can get a good line right there on the V-notch to be able to shoot that. So we feel pretty good about the work that was done, and we'll see, how it lasts. And we'll come up here next year and do some updated video. And now we're going to take the excavator down. We're going to do some more drainage work farther down the trail as we go. Okay, we're getting close back down to the first here. This is probably the hardest obstacle for us to navigate on the way up. So we're going to take a look, see if we can figure out how we want to try and come back down this thing. Just about down, coming back under the catwalk at the mill. We'll go down, we'll pull the road closed sign so everybody will be able to come back up here and enjoy Wheeler. Go see the obstacle, give it a try, hopefully wear that road in. It's nearly impossible to make the road, once you do work on it, look like this, where it's just decades and decades of use, to wear it in to look like an off-road trail. So it's going to take some time up there, but be able to come back up here and try a bunch of different lines on that obstacle and challenge your vehicle. Okay, another project wrapping up. We got the excavator down here loaded back up. We got a couple other things to get ready to roll, and then we're gonna head out down the mountain and roll back home. Put this job to bed.